Markets have a lot of cues coming in, as we pointed out, and joining us now is Chris Powell, who is Secretary of the Gold Antitrust Action Committee. He joins us to talk about gold and the kind of influences that we are seeing in the markets. Chris, hi, good to have you. What is your expectation? Is the gold prices taking more influence from what's happening in sense of political uncertainty in US, or is it about the physical buying that the markets are seeing right now?
Well, I think the real influence on the gold price is not political events. The real influence on the gold price is surreptitious trading by central banks directly and through their agent investment banks. The political impact on the gold price is always very temporary. The long-term impact on the gold price is how central banks are trading it directly through intermediaries and through derivatives on the futures markets. I don't really think that these political events are much to be concerned about.
All right. Just coming back to the U.S. and the U.S. dollar as well, which is trading at a 4-month lows, do you think that has a bit of a support in gold as we've seen in the last few weeks?
Well, I think over the long term, the U.S. dollar is going to have to be devalued. There's just too much U.S. dollar denominated debt in the world, and the world economy can't be sustained with that much debt. When it is going to happen, it will be probably through an international central bank conference that will be held secretly. We will not know about it until it is sprung on us. That's how currency revaluations are always arranged through history. In the long term, currencies will devalue. The reserve currency, the dollar, will devalue. In the short term, I think anything can happen, especially if the bullion banks are doing derivatives trading for central banks.
Chris, coming on what's happening in the global markets right now, because we see the hedge funds, the money managers continue holding long positions here as well. It also is about the buying that has seen support from there on. What is your sense when you look at gold and silver prices? How bullish are you going forward from these kind of levels?
Well, I'm always encouraged about the prospects for the monetary metals, because to me they represent truth, justice, transparency in the markets and limited government. But you know, I'm talking my political book here. I do think there is evidence of great strain in the gold market right now. The gold offtake on the New York Commodities Exchange has exploded in recent months, and the COMEX has seldom been a physical market. The Bank for International Settlements has returned to the gold swap business, which is a sign of great strain in the market. So I think it's possible we're entering another bullish phase here because of the physical offtake and the strain in the market.
Well, your point about the dollar devaluation is taken well, because that is something that many people have now started talking about. But let's talk about India, Chris. And while we Indians treat gold as money and wealth, the government stance has been quite different. It has steered more towards monetization, financialization, and that really hasn't so well until time.
Well, the Indian government has been waging war on gold for many, many years. The Indian people understand that gold is money and it's a conservator of wealth. The Indian government does not want the people to be using gold as money. The Indian government, like all governments, wants to control the money the people use. It wants to control the wealth they have. When the Indian government destroyed so much of the Indian people's currency over the last year, of course, that very much impaired gold demand. But the Indian government's attempt to paperize gold, the various gold borrowing schemes by the government apparently have failed. Reuters reported the other day that the Indian government's gold schemes have drawn out only about 7 tons of the estimated 24,000 tons in the possession of the Indian people and the temples in India. This suggests that the Indian people are not going to be fooled, that the Indian people are going to understand that gold is money, that gold is real wealth. and that the government impoverishes them with devaluing its currency. Now, India is a developing country, but think of how much richer it would be if the Indian government allowed the gold price to trade freely, was not always fighting the gold price, attempting to suppress it. Those 24,000 tons in the possession of the Indian people might make India the richest country in the world in a free market.
24,000 tons is what Indian households and temples hold. But Chris, if there was one suggestion that you wanted to make to the Indian government, what would that be, considering that India still is perhaps the biggest consumer and hoarder of gold in the markets?
I would say stop fighting it. You know, be a democratic government. The people of India respect gold as money and as wealth. I think the Indian people want gold as money. Gold empowers individuals. It gives them some protection against government and paper money. I'm not sure any government wants the people to have their own independent money, but I would urge the Indian government and any government to democratize itself and let the people have the kind of money they want.
Well, that point is well taken. Chris Powell, thank you so much for joining us with your sense on, of course, the global cues, the gold holding that Indians have, and of course the way to forward as well, where of course there are views coming in bullish when it comes to the precious metals.